Greetings! Welcome to this morning's YouTube live version of A Blog to Watch Weekly Live. For all those who tune in at this time in the morning, we welcome you and hope you will participate in our show. We are not joined by the usual motley crew. The only motley crew that's left is David.
Yes.
Everybody else is a spare, an heir and a spare, and another heir and another spare and all the rest of it. Gentlemen, before we get on with the main show, how are you? We're also waiting, hopefully, for Leslie, our eloquent Irish reviewer, to join us. Always full of stories. But how are you, gentlemen? Azad, you well? Kevin?
All very
First
well,
chat
thank
for the
you.
week.
Yeah,
Very good.
doing okay. It's just crap weather, but never mind.
It is the way of a British winter. It is the way of it.
Yes.
Yes, this is it. This is. Why do we live in this country? Why do we
No,
not
I'm just
go
waiting
somewhere
for
else?
global warming to hit. That's all. That's what I'm
Hmm.
waiting for.
Listen, global warming, but it would be just our luck. Global warming hitting will get colder and wetter rather than warmer and
Yeah.
hotter. We'll
That would be our
Thankfully,
luck.
it's impossible.
we'll be just in that bit of the jet stream where it moves south and we end up in a permanent polar vortex as the jet stream collapses. Anyway, there's some nice insight into the immediate ecological and global emergency that is climate change, whether you believe it or whether you're Donald Trump. Right, we will
Exactly.
get on with our show. Hopefully will appear momentarily. So here we go. Let's clap in. So 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Here we go. Greetings and welcome to this week's A Blog to Watch Weekly. You have joined us when two others have chosen not to join us, namely Ariel and Ripley, who are on their travels. They are tuning into whatever in-flight movie represents the watch industry the best and making their way towards Geneva. And just as I say that, our fifth wheel, because we have 4 wheels here already, is just trying to log into the room. So as a wee surprise, we'll let him straight in and see just how much of a mess he makes coming into the room. So here we go. We welcome Leslie to the show this morning. Good morning, Leslie. Good morning, Leslie. How are you?
Morning.
We are
Morning.
live and recording,
good.
so
Tough.
no mistakes are permissible. You must be perfect, foot perfect from here on in. You well, Leslie?
Yes, good. Still half asleep, but I'm awake. I have coffee.
Still half asleep. That's good. So if you're able to turn up your volume ever so slightly, move close to the microphone, that would be useful. Kevin is also joining us this morning. How are you, Kevin?
I'm very well. As you were discussing just before going live, the global warming effect and waiting for it to come in.
Yes.
I do believe in it, but yeah, just wanted to make it a bit warmer. A constant 21 degrees would be nice, I think.
Yes. Have you stolen one of Ben Clymer's jumpers? For those
No,
watching
no,
video.
we have both have good taste. So we have both had the same jumper.
You both have the same jumper. Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. It does. It's looking Clymer-esque. Clymer for the climate. There
Humor-esque.
we go.
Jesus.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Take that as a
Absolutely.
compliment. Okay. Azad, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Very well, thank you. Very well. Yeah, also struggling with this weather. Just can't
Excellent.
wait for it to get warmer.
And for those watching on video, for your background this morning, you've chosen Omega and Tudor. Any particular reason? Do you own these watches or aspire to these watches?
I do own these watches. These were some of the first I sort of brought into the collection and started posting on social media. So yeah, they are significant.
Very good, as I'd put in some effort into his background. Leslie, your background appears to be piled high of, I can't work out if it's books or CDs.
They're
Maybe
actually
actually cassette tapes, seeing as
No,
you're a
they're
vintage
CDs.
man.
CDs. I
not-
still use CD player and records.
Right. You're sure it's not cassette tapes?
And there's
8
even a
tracks.
there's even a Kanda Bongo Man CD in there, who you don't know who that is, but he is
I don't.
Congo's most famous musician. Had I been on last week, I could have explained to you about the joys and worldwide appeal of Congolese music.
Oh, Congolese music, right.
because of
So,
Tally Papa, yeah.
so you're an expert. Well, we'll get you back in. You can have a chat with Ariel. When we do a postscript, you and Ariel can can celebrate Congolese music
Yes.
together.
Honestly, it's
And-
brilliant. It's really good. Zaire,
Okay.
as it used to be called. So
Yes. Rumble. Is that Rumble in the Jungle? Was that Zaire?
it is. I think, yeah, it is.
Yeah. There we go.
Kinshasa.
Anyway, our usual co-host David, you're here. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Sorry, I'm having a coughing fit in the background. I was hoping you'd give us more than just good morning while I mute myself to have a cough. But there we go.
Ask me a question. How are you, Rick?
I am very well. Don't ask me a question. I need to sit here and cough.
Right back
Give
at
it-
you.
Right back at me. Anyway, good. Right. Well, let's crack on with our show. Let's do a bit of news first. Rolex retires, according to Watch Pro. The way I read this, it's like Rolex retires its third watch brand from Watch Pro. I'm thinking, what are the other two watch brands that it's retired over its history? And then I realized it's Rolex retires its third watch brand in that it had three watch brands: Rolex, Tudor, Carl F. Bucherer, and has retired Carl F. Bucherer. First question: does anybody care?
Well,
Nope. No.
whoever bought one of those flying tourbillons with gems on it for 140,000, they care. I mean, that was a lot of money out the window anyway. But now it's even more. I think it's crazy, and technically I care as well, because Carl F. Bucherer, by the end of it, sadly, has produced some really, genuinely worthwhile watches. I think. There were some nice ones in there. So if you can pick one of those up at like 50 off, 60 off, 70 off, which, there's a really strong chance for, then wow, you can totally do that now. And again, there have been like some really nice ones out there in recent years.
They're not denying or commenting any further on the story on Watch Pro, but obviously we will. Kevin Azad, ever had any desire to own a Carl F. Bucherer?
I've handled them quite a few times. They are fantastic pieces, but the pricing is quite challenging on some of these. I just think it's hilarious that we're talking about a Rolex brand being retired and therefore is about to become very rare. 50% off, 70% off. Yeah.
I've forgotten it. Where's the nearest Bucherer, Carl F. Bucherer to anyone on this chat?
Not near me.
Is it any?
Yeah, there's
got near
one.
them?
There's the obviously Bucherer in Covent Garden, multi-brand is the nearest one, probably the only one that sells Bucherer watches there. We did host an event as part of Red Bar Southeast. We did host an event with Bucherer, Carl F. Bucherer in particular. Surprisingly enough, it was only part of the evening. The other half of the evening was to do with Rolex and their CPO watches, which is no surprise really. But we did handle a few at that event, and they did really, really well within the people who were there. They looked fantastic. They're fantastic workmanship, but of course, as I said, they're just overpriced. Somewhat.
They star in that Atomic Blonde movie. Have you seen that movie with Charlize Theron?
Oh, really?
And they look really, really good. That's the watch. There's secret codes hidden in the watch, and they look amazing in it. They really do. And if I had a chance to see, if buying one would allow me to meet Charlize Theron, I think that would be interesting.
Well,
But
they're
no, she's
also
with
in,
Riley.
yeah.
But they still have a chance.
Yeah.
There's still
They're
a chance.
also in,
Breitling.
the John Wick films as well, I believe.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, there is
So,
a meme
yeah.
there is a meme doing the rounds, which is John Wick lying next to his puppy dog. For those that have watched the films, pointing at the fact that if John Wick does that, goes through. Has there been 3 John Wicks or 4?
4.
4 John Wicks because somebody kills his dog. Imagine what he's going to do when somebody steals his watch. So there we go. John Wick is Carl F. Bucherer. They advertise quite a lot. Did a few films, did they not? Carl F. Bucherer.
John Wick sends his Carl F. Bucherer back for a service, and then he just lies out.
Goes into a Rolex store looking for what it'll be like a cross. What's the film where is it not Kirk Douglas? What's Kirk Douglas's son called? That was married
Michael.
to that's married to Catherine.
Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas, yeah.
Michael Douglas. Is it? What's the film where he goes in and he runs rampage because he can't get a burger? He can't get his breakfast burger at 11. Yes, it'll be like that. He'll go. John Wick will go into the Carl F. Bucherer or the Rolex, going service this, and they go, "No, we don't know what this is. We've never seen this before." And then he'll just run rampage around Covent Garden.
I'll be shocked if anybody does a rampage for Carl F. Bucherer. Shocked. If anybody does that, Rolex has to bring the entire brand back the next day. if there's just one person doing a rampage for Cardiff Boucher. But sadly, I don't think that's gonna
I
happen.
don't think anyway. You think this will just fade? Question is, do you think it's available to purchase? Do you think if
Yeah,
we went and made an offer
course.
and said, "Could we just buy the brand off you, Rolex?" Or do you think they'll just
not the
park it
brand.
away, not seen for the next 50 years until they decide to do a revival?
We can
I'm
just
sure
sneak into the
somebody will
manufacturer.
pick up. Yeah, somebody will buy. I mean, Breitling have bought or revived certain watch brands, Universal Genève, and they've apparently
Hmm.
bought something else as well, which is going to be launched later in the year. Why not Breitling bring it back in 20 years' time, 30 years' time?
Yes. Well, handily, that brings us on to our next news story. This is from Miss Tweed. There is certainly, from my knowledge, some truth to this. Breitling to unveil Galley revival next month.
Mhm.
I don't think it's necessarily that big a secret that Breitling have ambitions to have a baby brand. They obviously have done what they've done with Universal Genève, but that appears to be going upscale and complication. But the idea that Breitling would like a kind of Tudor to their Rolex, I think, is reasonably well known. And it may well be the case that Galley becomes it. What does anybody know about the history of Galley? They're going, I'm testing you, you watch geeks, you. Galley, hit miss,
Yeah.
maybe?
Completely new to me, I'm
Complete,
afraid.
even a vintage
And
boy
I'm a
like
vintage
Leslie.
person, you know. I just not come across.
Not come across at all. David, Galley,
Well,
mean anything?
we've wrote about Galley a few times on a blog to watch, not that long ago. I just looked it up, and the reason why I remembered it was that it had really nice, high quality dials. I don't know why I remembered that, but I did. Otherwise, it was kind of generic in a way. I'm looking at one of Ariel's reviews right now. Well, whatever. I mean, I'm sure they will do more with it. I'm just not sure, whether it's. I don't know. I'm not sure if they're going to position it below Breitling. Will they?
Well, I mean, Breitling's consistently going up in price, much like everything else. Do they not need to be bringing in some? I would have thought. I mean, maybe it's not Galley. Maybe they'll launch a brand new brand. But I would have thought that Breitling introducing something that could be considered genuinely entry level
Hmm.
that they could have in their stores, because there's so many mono brand stores now, would make sense to be able to drag people in. And I
Well,
think that's what you'll find happens with mono brand stores is they become multi-brand stores, but for the same brand ultimately. That, you know, Breitling, I imagine you might see a Universal Genève corner in a Breitling store at some stage, even if it's
Mhm.
just passing through. Maybe the same with Galley. It would seem to make sense to have these, all coming under the name of Breitling, and you understand what the Breitling brand is, but you've never seen this thing, and these things look cool, or they particularly appeal, or they're a bit cheaper, or they're much more complicated, or much more dressy. That would make sense. So I guess we'll see what happens. Any other big brands that should be looking at other brands to buy or revive or invent from scratch? Or is Breitling in a fairly unique position as far as this goes, gentlemen?
I mean, do you think Breitling might do this just to let them raise the prices of their Breitling models so that they don't lose out at the bottom end of the market?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, I think every watch brand is determined to raise prices by hook or by crook. And if this can provide some sort of segregation, then maybe. But I don't know enough about, what folk would think when they hear the brand Galley as to whether, I'm not even sure that the word necessarily translates very well, Galley. I mean, we've got 2 solitary reviews of Galley watches on the website. Yeah, an old one and a newish
Yeah.
one. That's from
I like the one on the right.
2018 and 2008. They feel quite Breitling-y, chronographs, lots of big pushers. It doesn't feel like a Tudor to a Rolex, but I
Well,
guess we'll see what happens.
Define entry level. I mean, Breitling already starts at like $3,000. You know, it's not like they're absent in that space. If you buy a basic Super Ocean, it's not that crazy expensive either. So they're
fair enough.
in the Tudor range, and meanwhile, a Tudor is 4.5, 5, 6,000 sometimes. So it's Tudor has come up in price big time. I agree that Breitling should have a little bit greater diversity and in the sub 5,000 segment maybe. I'm just not sure Gale will be that. I think it's more about Universe Genève to me made a little bit more sense. I'm not sure, what is it that they see in Gale. They just have to build a large group, to justify how much Breitling had cost and to create something that can go through the roof in terms of value, because there's only so big Breitling can grow. How big can you grow a brand? You can double it, maybe triple it in terms of like quantity, but then you're really, really pushing it. And once you stop doing that, and once you reach your, peak production quantity and price, then there's not much further to go. It's going to be a linear growth from then on. And so if you want to keep your investors happy, then you have to invest in other brands. And there are a few out there, maybe more now with Conor Bucher, but few out there, to buy, to invest in, and to build into something that will make a blip in terms of the value of what is becoming the Breitling Group.
Breaking news beats on the chat if you're watching us on YouTube live. So a Blog to Watch Weekly live on YouTube is confessing that he's in fact an employee of said company, going back to the Kalev book. I don't know if that means he's an employee of Rolex or of Kalev Booker. There's a wee inside track there. And as an employee, he's saying he ain't going to miss it. So, it just shows you perhaps. I mean, it was clear. Was it always? I assume, did the shops actually? I don't know the answer. Did the shops come first, and then they developed their own watch brand, or was the watch brand before the retail? Does anybody know?
I would have thought it was the shop first, and there's that old tradition of buying watches. I mean, I have thought about buying a Mappin watch recently, which was presumably from Mappin and Webb, that was up on vintage auction.
Yeah.
I always quite like this idea of buying the watch from the shop. Old Weir's ones, the Dublin retailer, they come up for sale, and they're actually not expensive at all, and they're quite cute. Some of them, I would presume it has to have been the shop first, surely.
Yeah, and then
yes, it was.
Was it the shop? Was there much difference in timing? Was it 25 years into owning the shop they decided to have their own watch brand, or was it clearly always a kind of double play at the beginning of the creation of this?
Well, if you
Skimmers, Chat GPT.
No, not ChatGPT. I'm old school. But if you look at it, I think it basically, what was everybody doing in the early 1900s, pocket watches and tiny, jewelry watches for women. So maybe we can trace it back to that. Maybe they have consigned some of those, but it's more like the late 1940s, 1950s when the whole thing kicked off. And basically, what we care about more or less is the modern era, which is linked to Jörg Bucher, who passed away last year, 2 years ago.
Yep.
And shortly before his passing, he basically gave all of his company, including Bucher and with Kalev Bucher, to Rolex Group. So that's where the whole thing ended. But it was his, if you've read the reports on this, people working at the company, and maybe our friend in the chat can confirm this. This is a hobby or the little baby of Jörg Bucher. So nobody was really saying no to him in anything. It was just like, sure, do whatever you want and just throw 100 million Swiss francs at it and see what happens.
Yeah,
but that's fine.
Fair enough. Well, maybe it leads us conveniently onto this particular article. Unfortunately, Ariel is not here to discuss it, so this conversation may be shorter than intended. But Ariel's, are Swiss luxury watch brands engaging consumers enough? Now, what I take this to mean is that they need to do slightly more than just advertising and telling us what they're selling. That actually to bring new watch collectors, to persuade someone that owns one watch to buy two, and for that second watch also to be Swiss, that they need to be slightly more engaged with the rank and file. It's okay, they can be engaged with brand ambassadors and folk at football matches and all the rest of it, and giving watches for folk to wear at big red carpet events, but none of this is really engaging the consumer that ultimately is the person that's going to keep their industry going. do you feel sufficiently engaged by Swiss luxury watch brands, David?
I think it really depends which one we are talking about. I think they could certainly do more across the board. I think the whole industry has become rather more stale since the pandemic. I think it was just one giant, big, fat reason for them to be extremely comfortable in their skin, and they're like, well, I guess we don't have to really develop new products. I guess we don't really have to advertise that much. I guess we don't have to do those events that much. And that has, the industry has just simply not caught up to speed since then. It really shows everywhere you look. Products, advertising, events, the whole thing is extremely slow. It's been slow since 2019, 2020. So I think, it was a much more active, much more proactive industry before the whole thing went down. And I think it's just hopefully convenient for some and very difficult for others to get back in the groove.
Leslie, Kevin, can you identify a difference between how you've been treated or how you view Swiss watch brands?
Yeah, I would love if they engage more. I mean, I don't really feel, the shops do, the retailers will try. I mean, I've got a decent amount of communication with in Dublin, there's two big watch companies, basically. There's Wears, which is really Rolex and Omega and a couple, and then there's another batch of these brand new shops, and they're quite new. They're only 3 years old or so, and they're very active in terms of bringing people in and so on. But I never feel, IWC were over recently previewing some of their watches, and they had a breakfast that I went to, but I don't get much. Even press releases are hard to get out of them sometimes. I've actively asked several of the brands to put me on their lists, and you have to just keep asking. I find it incredibly frustrating to deal with. I'm sure David is, and he's way more important than I am, obviously. But I don't really feel that they care. And I think it's going to come and bite them because, sales are not doing so well at the moment, are they? Sales.
Do you think it reflects a difference between retailers and the manufacturers themselves, like Wears, etc.?
Yes, the retailers are better, but even they're not brilliant. But they're much better than the actual brands themselves. I think see themselves in this ivory tower, and they don't really. Occasionally, they deign to. You have to apply to get it on the press release list. It's just ridiculous, And like Patek won't just. They've never replied to any email. I've tried several times to just. All I want is the bloody press release. It's like...
And we should add, Leslie, for those that are tuning in and hearing you are actually a journalist. It's not
that you're sorry. And I don't write about watches. It's very much a part-time thing to watches. I'm mainly a food and wine journalist, but I have written several pieces about watches for a magazine called Tatler, which is a bit like... It comes through in a business newspaper. It's a bit like How to Spend It in the Financial Times. So, it's a pretty magazine, and whenever I've mentioned stuff, they've always been delighted. Then when I've sent them stuff... This would be PR people, but they're just impossible to get any information from. I find. I don't know. Do you find the same? I don't know.
I think it's really odd. I now deal more with the brands than I do with the retailers, whereas it used to be the other way around. I suppose as I've kind of changed what I do in relation to the watch world, and you tend to find that the people who are the best to deal with are the PR, or those that have their own PR agency.
Yeah.
And there are like 3 or 4 big PR agencies that if you get to know them well and you're nice to them and respectful to them and you answer their emails and you engage with them, you will actually get a relationship because they've got numbers to churn out. They need to presumably report to their clients how many folk have we engaged with, blah, 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 blah. And if you make it easy for you to be added to their engagement list, then that's fine. That's great.
Make it easy.
Yeah.
How do you make it any more easier? Here's my email address. Add it.
True.
Maybe not a WhatsApp number with a jingle, I guess. Okay,
Is David? Was that an intro?
It was a cue.
Was that a cue? Do you need to hear the jingle?
My goodness.
Okay, let's do the jingle. For those that haven't heard our jingle.
Strap in.
Here we go. Strap in. Here it comes. See how loud it is.
You wanna know, you wanna talk. Let's hear your thoughts on a blog to watch. +44 738 669 0 89
versions next week, Leslie?
+44 738 6690 897.
If you're not already dancing around the room and addicted to that, then you're just not human. I'm sorry. That's if that's not going around between your ears for the rest of the day, then yeah, I think you need to check your pulse. Yeah, if you want to contact us on WhatsApp, then by all means do WhatsApp that number. You need to go back and rewind. I'm not reading out the number. You just need to go back and listen to the jingle again, try and figure out what it is, or go to the show notes, or follow us and look on a Blog to Watch Weekly live on YouTube. The stats Ariel came up with are that above $10,000 and more, you're looking for over 23 engagements before somebody buys from that brand. Do you feel those numbers ring true with your own watch purchasing? If you think about the values of watches you have bought, do you feel that actually that's kind of where you're at, that you take that long, that many times going into the shop? I mean, Leslie, he takes flowers into all his shops first.
Yes.
A story which I told the other gentleman in this call before we started recording, so that they're all up to speed, Leslie.
Yeah.
But we'll reveal that particular story some other time. You know, do you feel like you engaged with, I don't know, tech 23 times before you spent over $10,000 with them? Do you feel like to buy that swatch, you just went in and bought it?
I think that's pretty accurate. Looking at that,
Yeah.
looking at that. I mean, obviously, it's down to spending money, and also how much the product costs. I mean, obviously, most people could just rock up to a Swatch watch shop and purchase a Swatch for £79, euros, whatever, as opposed to, and it's a bit of fun. It tells the time. You get the battery replaced whenever it runs out, and yeah, it's just a bit of fun. It's almost like a throwaway watch with a throwaway sum of money. However, the more interesting, the more complicated the watch is, and obviously the higher the price, there is more availability. There's more in that segment that you can look at. I'm surprised there's not more in the 1,000 to 10,000 range, to be perfectly honest, because that's a vast segment that covers most of the brands, to be perfectly honest. Most of the Swiss brands, and certainly British brands as well. So I would have thought the engagement would have been more in that range as well, which means that, you know, there's a lot of competition. So you go back and have a look at it time and time again. But yeah, I mean, obviously, as I say, the more money you want to spend, the more times you want to go in and touch and feel that particular product, or any product, really.
What does interactive
we know-
mean? Does it mean going into the shop, or does it mean looking at an ad and reading the blurb on their website?
I honestly have no idea.
Yeah.
But we know that the share of watches sold over sort of the £10,000 mark is going to be predominantly Rolex, and given how difficult they make it to acquire their watches, you know, you can certainly understand. You know, if somebody asks you how many times you feel you've interacted, well, I've been on the waiting list for God knows how long, and I've been calling them every month. Yes, that gets the numbers up.
Yes,
Right?
fair enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Rolex boosting their own customer engagement by making you walk through the store so many more times to ask than anybody else. Right, let's have a look at a watch. And for those that tuned in last week, we had a bit of a new game. We're going to continue that disastrous game this week by further making up the rules. Kevin's already shaking his head. New release, Bulgari and MB&F turn the Serpenti watch into a horological machine. This is a collaboration, therefore it will be judged by our collabarometer. That sounds good. Our collabarometer scale, which goes from -15 to +15. Currently in the lead, around about 11, is the Bulgari Sejima, which we rated as being the
best.
the best that there was. So let's judge this. David, you wrote this article.
Yes.
Tell us why does this exist? What's the need? What does it do? It's a silly looking thing.
Do you want their story or why it actually exists?
Oh, well, that sounds like I'd like both of those things.
Yeah. So basically, it was MBNF and Bulgari. They've worked together in 2021. They've created this bedazzled, fragile-looking women's watch, which is beautiful. And years went on, and they just, some of them, maybe Fabrizio had an idea, and they wanted to create a Serpenti. A Serpenti is a Bulgari icon. I don't think that is an overstatement. It's been around since the 1940s. It's a women's jewelry watch. It's beautiful. It's fantastic. It's obviously snake themed, and there's never been a men's version so far. And they don't call this the men's Serpenti. It doesn't have the Tubugas bracelet or anything like that, but it does have more or less a serpent's head to go with. But what actually happened was that Fabrizio Buonamassa of Bulgari and Max Busser of MBNF, they are both real diehard car enthusiasts. Both of them wanted to become car designers when they were kids. They were sketching cars and all the rest of it. And what's hilarious to me about this release is that it's trying very hard not to be a car themed Bulgari and MBNF watch. So technically it still is a serpent, but if you look at it from every other angle, it has wheels, it has the same louvered rear window, it has a windscreen, side windows, all the rest of it. It has the shapes of like a 1960s car. If you scroll down a little bit, I chose an Alfa Romeo 33 Prototipo, which is just like basically the same kind of shape. So I think it's very clearly a car inspired watch, and I just imagine the two trying to hold themselves and each other back not to make this. Look at those sketches. If you look at those sketches, if you scroll up a little bit, and if you look at what those look like, car sketches upside down, and maybe the Millennium Falcon, it's like none of those look like a serpent of any kind. They literally are car sketches, and then they are somehow trying to like turn this into a serpent. So I find this exercise in self-restraint hilarious and admirable at the same time. And if you scroll down a little bit, I chose that picture because to me it's just, the watch is basically a mid-engine car if you look at it that way. So I think it's quite hilarious.
It's certainly a statement, isn't it? I think they're fantastic. I've only just seen them.
Yeah. I didn't understand when I first read this article or scanned past it that had anything to do with the Serpenti watch. I just thought it was a collaboration on like the Bullfrog type watch from MBNF, and that was it. And it was just a little. It was only when I read it, I said, this has got nothing to do. The Serpenti is all about the bracelet. Sure. It's all about the wraparound bracelet, and
a little bit.
There's not a watch show that I've ever been to where there's been a Serpenti there and loads of male watch journalists, and they've all like had a wee sneaky try on of the very feminine Serpenti and gone, I really wish I could get away with wearing this because it's really cool. And I think if they could come up with some way of making the bracelet more, for want of a better expression, masculine, so that we felt like we could get away with wearing that, I think we probably would. Maybe you'd have to go to a bun strap first to kind of break yourself in gently. But the Serpenti is all about the bracelet. Gentlemen, any other thoughts on this before we give it some judgment?
I totally agree with David. It's more of a car designed watch than anything that is in the current range of Serpenti with Bulgari. It's I just should have called it just a car watch, basically. Nothing more than that. It's nothing. I can't see how they can derive a Serpenti name out of the design. I really can't.
Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch.
Girls like snakes and boys like cars. I don't know.
Bulgari is not very much into cars, so maybe that's why. I mean, they had collaborations with Maserati and stuff, but it's just like, it would be hilarious for Fabrizio Buonamassa to steer Bulgari somehow closer to cars and car design and car-themed watches. I think that's actually a very interesting prospect, because today, the only watch I can think of that you can wear as a car enthusiast and project to others that you are into cars through your watch is the Chopard Mille Miglia. No other watch, not even the Daytona or any other car or racing or whatever themed watch, tells other people that you are not into the watch for the watch, but into cars through the watch. And maybe that would be like a good match for Bulgari.
What about the Jacob & Co. Is it the Charan?
Yeah, all 5
The
of
bulk-
those owners can
Yes.
certainly say that they
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
you can
got
add 5
2
more
million
people.
or whatever it is. Yeah, add 5 more. Yeah.
That's correct. I mean, there were some Group B themed watches from whoever. I'm not sure who those were, but those are like very niche. So I should have
Yeah,
specified.
very
Yes,
niche.
that like mass market stuff. Yeah, exactly. What are we looking at, Rick?
Oh my gosh.
Rick is on mute.
Wasn't that
What
advert?
is this, gentlemen? Yes. What is
This
this?
is
An
from
advert
Smash.
for?
Heinz
Smash
mince
potato.
Heinz?
Smash.
Oh, smashed, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's
Mashed
the robots
potato.
from the mashed potato advert of
Instant mashed
all
potato.
British childhoods and Irish childhoods.
Yeah.
That's what this watch looks like. So there you go. That's my contribution. Right, let's get some judgment. Azad may need to leave us shortly, so let's go first with you. So your scoring range is -5 to +5. So is this watch, the final design, is the whole greater than the sum of its parts from -5 to 5?
So
Contribution of both
judging this
brands.
as a collaboration, right? As a two-brand
collaboration, as a
collaboration.
two-brand thing. Is
I
the
mean,
whole greater than the sum of the parts?
It seems more MB&F than Bulgaria. to
Yeah.
me.
I'm going to give it a -2 because it feels very one-sided in its design.
A -2 from Azad. And we'll stick with Azad to get through yours. Have you heard of the collaborators between -5 and +5? It's not just you, it's just kind of global knowledge of the collaboration. Where do we think it sits?
For anybody in the watch world, yes, absolutely, we've heard of them. I mean,
Yeah.
surely.
What are you scoring it, Azad?
Well, in
Yeah,
terms of having heard of them, it's like a 4, I would have thought. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't call yourself.
Yeah, I think it'd be a 3 or 4. Yeah.
A 3 or 4, 4 from Azad. And finally, Azad, is it a cool watch? Like in a fundamentally -5, is it cool? Give it a cool
It
score
is
from
a-
-5 to +5.
Yeah, I'd give it a 4. It is a cool watch. I think one of the sketches you showed earlier had a very different looking strap, which I think they've missed a trick there. I don't know why they haven't followed it up. That one, yeah, you can see it's much more of a scaled strap.
Yeah.
I think would have brought out the snake
Sneaky.
element of it. So as we've been discussing on our show recently, a Python strap maybe on
Oh,
this.
you
one,
have a
Kevin,
show,
what
do
you
you?
think?
You have a show.
Oh,
And you
we
thought,
do.
And you thought it was appropriate to plug it on somebody else's show. Did you? You have your own show. Do you really? Do you really? Have you
We might
plugged
do.
this? Have you plugged this show on that show? No.
We
No.
will do. We will do.
So is it appropriate to plug your show on ours? No, I don't think so. Kevin, Azad are indeed now heroes of their own YouTube channel. What is the channel called, gentlemen?
It's the Timely Pursuits
No,
channel.
not too late. You didn't get in there quickly enough. Too late. You didn't get in there quickly enough. Timely Pursuits channel, yes, indeed. So go and check that out on YouTube. It's very good. I think you're in episode 3 at the moment. The last one was actually talking all about snakes, if I remember correctly. So there we go. Go and check that out. So a 4, right? Leslie, give it your judgment. Whole greater than the sum of its parts.
I'm actually going to go 1 on that.
A 1.
Like, I
A
mean,
plus
it is, as I said, which way more MB&F focus, but I know I can see the soul of Bulgaria in it. I absolutely can. I think, and there is a sort of a snake-like look to the head of it, the sort of the shape. I don't know, but I agree on the scaly strap would have been brilliant. That would have definitely worked better.
And probably illegal in 103 out of 192
Probably, yeah.
countries. Probably that they try to sell it in. A brand recognition.
No,
-5
yeah, like a
+5.
4, definitely. I mean, yes, there will be people on the street who aren't interested in watches, who've never heard of or don't even know that Bulgari make watches. But if you're anyway a watch enthusiast, you have to know that they've held so many records for the thinnest watch, and they're actual watches. They're not just bits of metal that are very thin that someone has sort of globbed a watch onto. They're actual watches. And MB&F, well, if you haven't been rejected by the MB&F Mad One, Mad whatever lottery, then you're not really a watch enthusiast. We've all done that, So, and if you're Irish, of course, you know that they reinvented the what's his name up in Northern Ireland, reinvented the perpetual calendar, or at least created a different way to do it with a little lever switch that he created, and anyway, I'm rambling here. So no, I really like this. So 4 again, and what was the third?
Coolness rating.
Yeah, coolest rating. Yes. Yeah, I think this is brilliant. I'm going to go 4 again. Yeah, absolutely.
4 again. It's doing well. It's
Yeah.
doing well. David, I like the comment from Borisic. Get a Matchbox toy, stick a Casio module in it, and attach it to the axles of a bun strap. Would cost about $100 and give you pretty much the same thing. So, David, give it a rating.
Yeah,
Cool
I'll give it a
greatness of
4 for
parts.
the collab. I think it's a strong collaboration. I think I'm certainly am looking forward to the next one. I give a 4 also because I see the effort in the two gentlemen just trying desperately to hold themselves back and not make this into an absolute car watch, which I think is hilarious. I think the Serpenti could have just been dished halfway through, but somehow it ended up a Serpenti car on the wrist, which is cool. So I certainly want to encourage them to create something that is more their own next time a little bit. And yeah, as for global recognition and whatnot, I would even go so far as to give it a 5 because MBNF of course is more of a watch enthusiast thing, but Bulgari is a global and extremely powerful brand that you can find in every corner of the world basically. So it has a much wider appeal that goes way past even the scope of watches, right? So I think it's a very interesting collaboration in that regard. And as far as coolness, I think it's pretty cool. I think I give it a 4, not a 5 but a 4. Yeah, I think it's right on the edge of being super 5 out of 5 cool.
Good stuff. And Azad will be leaving us, so thank you for joining us, Azad, and we'll speak to you again soon. Good luck in your YouTube adventures. What's this channel called again?
The Timely Pursuits channel. Thank you.
Time Pursuits channel. Go check out. See you later on.
Thank you.
Okay, and then Kevin, finally from you. The whole greater than some of the parts.
It's a tricky one. I just looking at it, it's very much MBNF influence, so it's probably just a 2 because I can't see Fabrizio's work in it really. He's known for Octo Famissimo, of course. This is definitely not an Octo, and in my eyes, it's definitely not a Serpenti as well. So
Yeah,
I'll give it a 2.
yeah, that would be my argument, which is actually this just looks like I don't see what Bulgari brought to this that Max couldn't have done himself. So yeah, that's why I'd score it low in this particular one. And brand recognition.
For everybody knows Bulgari, of course, but MBNF. Yeah, it's if you're into horology, then probably, but the man on the street probably doesn't know MBNF at all. And as Leslie says, you have to be rejected for most of the watches from them to have some sort of badge of honor. It's definitely a badge of honor being rejected from them. So definitely a 4, I think.
And then finally, how cool is it? Is it just a cool watch?
Oh, it's
Coolness
5,
score.
100%. It is a cool piece, absolutely. Did notice on the press release that it's not limited, but it's 152,000.
It is limited.
Pounds.
It's
Oh, it
33
is
each.
limited. It is limited. See, this is what I hate about press releases. They never give you all of the information. So Leslie, don't worry about it. Just make up a press release whenever what comes out. Just make it up because they always get things wrong.
That would be a good website. Let's just make up bogus press releases.
Yeah.
Every watch that comes. I do like the fact that it's got the heated elements in the back of the windscreen on this watch for a cold day that allows you to see the movement. You just
It's
push
so not it.
you just push the wee button and the heater comes on at the back
That is
of
hilarious.
this watch. So there you go. So that's the Bulgari scored really rather well. Okay, let's have a look at a new series that's on a blog to watch. You may have seen one or two of them drop already. This is called Flyback. We touched on it a bit a couple of weeks ago with the whole snake stuff. So let's have a look. First up on this is thoughts on Omega and the Olympics. Already we have a 2026 Olympic watch. Now, you'd have thought that, bear in mind what happened last time when Omega jumped the gun, we had COVID and everything disappeared, and we had a watch that was the wrong year, that maybe they'd want to be slightly more cautious, because I don't suppose they're thinking they're going to sell very many of these straight out the bat. But what do we think about releasing a Cortina 2026 snow themed watch that is in fact a 37mm Omega Seamaster? Does this strike you as in keeping with the Winter Olympics? Because it doesn't strike me as in keeping with the Winter Olympics. I'm not sure what a Winter Olympic watch would be. What would be a Winter Olympic? An Omega watch for the Winter Olympics. What would you choose? Planet Ocean? Seeing as all the snow is melting, maybe a Planet
It's
Ocean.
got to be Planet Ocean or Seamaster 300. Much more rugged. This is very, very dainty. This is a dress watch, effectively. 37mm dress watch. It's not very. It needs to be tougher.
I mean,
Reminds me of the
it's-
1970s Seamasters.
yeah.
This looks like something they made for the 1926 Winter Olympics, not the 2026.
26
I mean, just get this over with. Honestly, this stuff. Oh, have you seen these fancy logs? Somebody was really creative back in 1952, weren't they?
and
Great.
it's
For 20 grand.
$19,000. What? Why?
That's a lot.
Who's
Isn't
who's-
it gold?
It is
I
gold.
mean, I assume it's moonshine gold. It's
Moonshine gold, yeah.
the moonshine gold.
You know the way you always bring gold watches when you're playing sports, you know?
Well,
Of
I
course,
mean,
especially if it's a reverso.
Yeah, exactly.
don't get me started.
As a gold
It-
reverser owner.
Bearing in mind that this particular, I wasn't going to touch on this, but since I've got the article open and you mentioned the Olympics and medals, there was this report that seems to be happening that the medals that I think are produced somewhere in the LVMH group for the recent Olympics have all
Yeah, they're
started
tarnishing, aren't they?
tarnishing.
Yeah.
They've all started changing color and are now no longer quite as gold as they should be. So the question
That's
is,
hilarious.
should they have let Omega produce the gold medals rather than LVMH? Should they all have been moonshine gold rather than
This-
whatever gold Omega use?
This freaking Omega. I mean, if you go on Chrono 24 and you look up a watch, yellow gold from the 1950s, linked to the Olympics, that is a Seamaster with the same lugs. It's $4,000 before you make an offer. But they start from like $1,500 and they try and sell you this for $20. Doesn't make any sense.
When I first got into YouTube, you could buy an Omega Seamaster from the 70s for £150, which seemed like a lot of money at that time, back in 2005, 6. That's
Yeah.
and now they're still only around $1,000, you know, and they look like that, you know. So
Yeah. Well, there we go. So that's Omega's
They
contribution.
gold
to-
plated as opposed to solid gold.
Solid gold. The ones that I checked.
Solid gold. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, for it's
Makes
$3,000.
There
That's
you go.
$3,000,
There's
yeah.
always a bargain
Got
to be
right.
had. Belova is this pronounced Millships 150th anniversary edition? I don't know what a millship is. It sounds like it might be the sort of thing you don't want to Google, but it's a diver with bronze. I thought bronze had gone. I thought we were over bronze. I thought we were over the whole bronze thing, but Belova seemed to be trying to keep it going. What do we think of this little 41mm? It's $1,100. That's maybe okay for $1,100.
it is.
Any experience of this? Is this it's a Myota 83SO, whatever that is. It's a movement of some kind. It's based on a prototype produced for them. This sounds like a Tudor story. This sounds like
Mhm.
that Tudor.
What a Blancpain.
Yeah,
Looks like a
what was
Blancpain
it-
too.
Yeah, but what was
It
the
looked like
Tudor
one,
that
yeah.
you said? Oh, we're producing this because it's based on a prototype. What was that one called with the funny articulating lugs on it?
Oh, yes, I
4
know.
years
I
ago.
know.
What
yes.
was that called?
Oh, not
It was
the,
like B01.
The
The,
P01. Yeah, this sounds like that kind of story. Only this
Yeah.
time from Belova.
Why would they
It's a-
need to create a prototype for this watch? Every dive watch looked like this since the 1950s. Like, oh, let's prototype this. We're not really sure if it works. What? A rotating bezel? Let's prototype it.
Yes, cathedral hands. Let's prototype cathedral hands because we've no idea whether they will work or not. Yeah, it's a rather uninteresting watch, but I suppose at £1,100, it might make it slightly more interesting.
Belova has some history, though. We sometimes forget this. I mean, besides being the first, battery watch or whatever, they were the first watch. There was the very first advertisement on television in the United States of America was a baseball game, and there was an ad in the middle, and it was for Belova watches, which is the time when
America runs on Boulevard time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That was it.
And I think the electrics in the ships that went to the moon, that when the lads were wearing Amigas, but the actual mechanical control panels were controlled by Bulova. So they have a bit of a history.
Right.
You know?
I did not
Oh
know
yeah,
that.
Bulova is a fantastic brand. It's just a bit sketchy whenever we hear like a prototype from the 1950s that was never released, and we're like, huh, okay. And I'm not putting the blame on Bulova. I'm putting it on everyone else who's destroyed the appeal or the wonders of these stories, right? I mean, we've heard this a few too many times over the years. Like a prototype that actually, you just go to Periscope, 2 days later, and you learn why it wasn't the prototype in the 1950s.
Okay, and then finally, Rado Daistar Original Tje Xuan. I don't know what that is. It's like it needs the collaboration judgment, but we'll spare it this week because I'm guessing it's going to score quite low. I quite like the Rado Daystar. It feels like it might have its moment again as a thing. I remember some of the original ones. My father had one. It feels like this design, if they play their cards right, could make it back. I'm not sure this is the collaboration I would be doing to try and make that happen. What do we think of the Rado Daystar? Are we a fan of that kind of shape?
The strap, I'm not sure about the strap, but I quite like the watch.
The strap appears to have been made of Tic Tacs, from what I can tell. Or either that or paracetamol for the headache that the rest of the watch is going to give you. You can just... In fact, those sweetie bracelets you get that are held together with elastic?
Yes, yeah.
Remember then? Is that the sort of thing you have? I'm realizing that because we've had so many folk based in the UK, we've already had for MASH get MASH, and now I'm talking about sweetie bracelets, two things which may not exist anywhere out with the United Kingdom. David, have you heard of a sweetie bracelet? No.
When it's like basically this like hard candy on a string.
Yes,
we
have
had
your
those.
wrist for so it doesn't exist outside the UK. It's good to know everywhere else is just as unhealthy. I'm assuming that this Daystar has the anchor. It looks like the anchor does its old route. Is that the?
It does have that vibe,
one? Or does it just rotate? So I don't know. I quite like the vibe. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it. I really do. It's definitely quirky enough to go into my wheelhouse, definitely. But and that case reminds me of Flight Masters. Amiga Flight Master cases, So which is also a cracking design. But yeah, I like it. I hope they go from strength to strength this year. I'm sure there's a lot of things coming out from them.
Yeah, $2,200. Maybe a push. Yeah. Baltic, the Baltic Air Meek Dual Time. I don't know where they get these names from. Because they not just called it the Baltic Dual Time. The Baltic Hermeneutic Dual Time Enduro Pally Edition. Do any of those words mean anything beyond Baltic Dual Time?
It's a motorbike race.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's another collaboration. Oh,
I still have a collab,
surprise. Yeah, okay.
It lasts between 2 and 3 hours, basically. But it's interesting. I like the fact that the crown goes into the watch, so it's nice and flush. As I said before, it's lovely. Certainly a great price compared to the Amiga version, which they did in titanium.
€600.
Compared to 50 grand for the Amiga version. But it's
certainly a different.
It's okay. It's okay.
Lean on it when you see it's only $600. You go, okay, if I like that. The colorway is nice, the green. David, any strong feelings about Baltic?
I think they tend to come with strong value propositions. I don't mind it at all. I support Baltic because it's whenever they launch something, usually it's a reasonable price and it has a tasteful selection of novel details, or maybe just a rearrangement of familiar details, but in a way that is it looks like something that a watch enthusiast designed. And I don't say that too often, but this is sort of like that kind of vibe. If you look at the size of this one, for example, this is like right on the money. If you look at like what people are commenting about and what they want, I'm not saying everybody, but many. So I think this looks like something that was modified after. You know, if you look at that strap, it typically looks like something that people put on a watch that they buy on a boring black strap, but they realize that a green strap would bring out that green hand and green text. So this is typically like a second or third stage watch, not, you know, it's just out of the box. So that's pretty cool.
True. And then a little something from Porsche Design. The Porsche Design Chronograph 1
Fat.
FAT 2020. Is this another collaboration? We should just have a collaboration section. This is another collaboration. The 2025 FAT Ice Race. I've no idea what FAT stands for. I'm not sure that anybody does, but I'm fairly sure that in the case of Porsche Design, it will just be another excuse to inflate the price, giving you, well, normally the cars, they give you less for more. The more bits they take off of it, the higher the price gets. In this case, they've added a little logo, presumably somewhere, celebrating whatever the FAT Ice Race is. I like Porsche Design, but I don't like their prices.
Yeah,
It's
it's too
definitely a brand to buy
Absolutely.
used if you can find it.
11 grand, jeez.
I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
And 156 limited edition. The problem being that if you own a Porsche, I mean, if you own a Porsche, can you legitimately buy a Porsche Design watch, or is that just too cheesy?
Is it a bit like
Look at me.
buying Porsche, like that in Friends when Joey dresses up in Ferrari gear or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh
think-
yes.
Yeah,
I
there's
think
a
it was a
certain type of
Porsche.
Porsche people who would do this. But I think these vintage style Porsche design watches underplay that a little bit. They're not as tacky as the new ones, you know, where you buy the exclusive series Turbo S and then you buy this, you know, the titanium and gold watch that goes with the car. I think the lesser the associate or the link, the weaker the link between the watch design and the car, the better it is, right? I think it should just be that the values in terms of like form follows function and you know, other nonsense like that should radiate from Porsche design watches as opposed to them trying to mimic the cars, because then, you know, at that moment it becomes really cheesy. I quite like this one with the wide dial though. It's very cool.
Is it luminous? It has the look as if it might
It
be a
better
luminous
be.
dial. Let's see if I mean, on
Yes,
the
it is.
collaboration, it is a lum dial, yeah. I mean, this is always one of these things. To what extent
That's
does
cool.
Porsche? Let's actually see. So
I want
there's
one
the
now.
Porsche. There's the Porsche watch. So let's go to the Porsche website and see how far into the Porsche website we need to be before we can find the watch that they're so proud. So there's Porsche Design. So timepieces. Let's go to timepieces. Nope. Brand new release. Nope. Not anywhere to be seen. Nope. So it's definitely getting a minus score. How far in do you think we need to get to be able to find this watch? Menu. Oh, another
Menu.
Porsche,
That doesn't sound good at all.
Time.
Just search for fat.
Yeah. Okay. There we
Yeah.
go.
Search for Yo Mama.
Oh, fat. Let's see if it returns. You search for.
Oh, yeah,
it does
there we go.
actually- It does do a return. It does do a return.
I like it on the white strap. It's gonna be unwearable, but pretty cool.
Oh no.
Yeah. That's actually okay on the.
It is a nice
and
one.
it's
Got it on the dial. Oh
There's a
no.
white strap. There's clearly a logo on the strap, and the
It says
logo
fat
is-
on it how many times? It says it in the day window. It says
Yeah,
it right
so-
below the day window in white, over white,
So
and then it
1,
says
2,
fat
on the
on the strap.
and it says it on the back 4 times.
Yeah.
Oh.
It says it 4 times on this watch.
Fat, 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 fat.
What's the movement? Is it just a?
It's a fat 7750.
Yeah, how deep is? Yeah, it does actually look quite thin. It maybe isn't.
It definitely is.
It definitely is. Do you think it just photoshopped the other
Source,
four-
trust me, bro, but it really is.
All right,
It's
okay.
going to.
You think it just photoshopped the 14 mil that sticks out the back of this watch?
I think they have redesigned it slightly.
Right.
The
okay.
movement.
So is this a
Very
car
good.
watch to deny what David was saying earlier that there's no car watches out there? This is a car watch, I suppose. It's got a tachymeter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But would
And
it
actually, I
be
was-
if it didn't say Porsche on it? If it just said Chrono Design, would we look at it and say, "Oh, that's a car watch"?
Yeah, because we forget that the tachymeter on all our chronographs was meant they were originally for cars, weren't they? They were
Yes,
for,
yeah.
for mile markers. You pressed
That's
the button
right. Yeah.
and- So
But the question is, if you took Porsche off of it, would it make the 11.5 grand an even more daft ask? Are you somehow going, it's 11.5 grand? Of course it is, because it has Porsche written on it. Don't and that's just
Mhm.
what they do.
That's like 5 grand right there.
I mean, it does
Uh,
feel like
yeah,
that. It
probably
does
even
feel like
more.
the Porsche thing is 5 grand's worth
Mhm.
of excess to them all. Is it Zelmsee they're based in? I think it is in Austria. Porsche design. I might be wrong. That might be a complete fiction.
They've been
Uh,
relocated so many times. They've been under so many different brand ownerships. They've been relaunched so many times. It's crazy. Every 3 years we hear like, oh, Porsche design, it's our timepiece #1. And I'm like, you had one in like 2015 or 2016, and then one in like whenever, and then one last year. It's difficult to keep track, and it's just this vicious cycle for Porsche design.
Yeah. On the chat, Boris is suggesting, why are all manufacturer websites so terrible? It deserves a blog to watch live alter itself. Funny you should mention that, because I have a watch a game in mind to play, which is I give 2 teams each a watch.
Mhm.
They have to estimate how many clicks on the website it will take to get to that watch, and the winner is
Okay.
the one that gets there in the fewest clicks. Because I think there are some watches that are well-known watches that are completely impenetrable to actually find. I mean, has anyone been to the Rolex website recently? How difficult it is to actually get to a watch beyond a video, all the rest of it, and good luck, Grand Seiko lovers, trying to find, unless you actually
Impossible.
have already memorized the reference number, you've got no chance. So
Yeah,
there we
I
go.
wrote a grinding gears about this, where I lamented the fact that it's once a watch is out of production, it's impossible to find. It just because it's been discontinued, it is as though the brand disowned it. 2 months after the 1165 00, the previous Steel Daytona was discontinued, it was nowhere to be found. You cannot find a single tiniest little droplet of information anywhere on Rolex.com or its media sites ever again. It's as though it never happened. Not the watch, not the case size, not the materials, not the design, not the movement, nothing. Only thing you can find stuff about is the newest one. And I'm like, how does that even work? Doesn't make any sense to disown a watch you've created, and to not allow people to find a user manual, to find whatever information they need on their watch from an official source. It's ridiculous.
Agreed.
Rent over.
Sorry, Richard. I've noticed on the Amiga website you can find stuff which has been discontinued. Certainly quite recently, but
You can
yeah,
look at
the
vintage
Rolex
now,
is really bad.
Yeah.
You can look up your vintage, 1960s Amiga on the Amiga website, can't you? I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're really good. They're really good.
It's the way it should be, to be honest. I mean, they should realize in this, not to repeat the old Patek tagline, but that's the great thing about watches, is that they are technically, theoretically, they should live forever. There should always be a guy who can make except for silicon pieces, but otherwise you can pretty much make anything in a workshop. Every cog, every ratchet,
Don't worry, the European Union will come to our rescue shortly and make it that it has to be legal that all watch that you've ever
have
bought
no effect in
have
the
to be able
UK
to
because
find
she's
them.
left.
Yes, we did.
They all have
leave.
to have USB-C now.
All watches have to be fitted like retrofitted like Hublots with USB-C adapters on the case front. Right, that's kind of our show for this week. But one final screen share I thought I would do, because this wins marketing. If Harry was here, I'm sure he'd appreciate this. Wins marketing thing of the week, for want of a better expression. So this was Lewis Hamilton's photo being taken. I assume it's Maranello he's in with his Ferrari and all his stuff.
That's hilarious.
And we know that means that Lewis moved from IWC to Richard Mille. And the genius that is Kurt Klaus, who is just one of the funniest guys you'll ever meet. I don't know if you've ever seen the adverts they ran where he goes into an Apple Watch store and looks at the Apple Watches. Go find it on YouTube. Somebody in the IWC department really knows how to make this guy sing in terms of the marketing. And then I've taken a picture of Kurt starting his 68th season with IWC, but who's counting. Go and check us out on YouTube at Blog to Watch.
Let's
channel.
Start a petition for Kurt Klaus to get his knighthood, so that he is Sir Kurt Klaus as well.
That's a
Yeah.
good idea. That's a good idea. Maybe we'll award him. What could we award him? He gets a blog to watch. I mean, the problem with giving life achievement awards is that it kind of has the thing of, oh, you're quite old. We better give you this for your pocket
OG.
pogs. But the OG,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, he's
let's
going
give
to
him
crock
the
in a couple of
OGE.
days.
the
OG.
OGE. I like that. He gets the OGE rather than the Commander of the British Empire knighthood. Yeah, so the OGE for Kurt Clowes. If you've got other nominations for OGE, then do get them into the show. You can WhatsApp us. I'll not subject you to the jingle again. Or
Just
you
put it
can
on the
email
screen.
us. Just put it on the screen. Or you can WhatsApp us or email us, podcast at ablogtowatch.com. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Thank you to all those in the chat. IWC shut up in my estimation, according to Boris. Yeah,
Yes.
this is how marketing works. It actually makes you go, you know what? IWC's just that smidgen bit cooler than it was yesterday because of this. And ladies and gentlemen, that's how marketing is supposed to work. It's supposed to make you have nice feelings towards the brand rather than annoying you because they themselves are being annoying. So there we go. So that's it from us. Thank you all very much for joining. If you are listening, if you do go to the Blog to Watch weekly live channel, you'll get a little bit of post-match chat beyond this. But if you're just listening to the podcast, have a great week and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.
Catch you next
Bye.
week. Bye bye.
Yes, I do like this Mercedes advert. I think that's
brilliant.
it's
fantastic.
very, very good. Very, very good.
There is
that.
you're talking about fuzzy feelings and with marketing departments. Grand Sega have gone down in mine this week. I don't know if you got
Go on.
the press release for their release, and it's the limited edition one, and it says limited to 1,000 pieces. But actually, if you go onto the website, it's 1,250 pieces. So just as I said to you before, just make up whatever you want and stick it out there. It's just absolute rubbish. You can't even get that right.
Maybe those 250 are free. Let's just get
Yeah.
one,
I
one
hope
each.
so. Yeah.
But the ones
like
they're
one
going to
of
send to the
those ones.
journalists, hopefully, yeah.
Oh yeah, probably.
It's the ones that need to sacrifice on Mount Iowa. They have to leave so many of them.
What you wanting?
It's like the royalty fee to the mountain for all the times that it's ripped off the mountain's IP. They have to leave it. I wonder if you could own the mountain, whether you'd have a claim on Grand Seiko for using for copyright claim. Let's try and buy mountain.
No, I'm sure
maybe.
Mr. Trump's already looking at that already.
That's right. He wants Greenland.
See?
He wants the Panama Canal, and he wants Mount Eoate for all the Grand Seiko limited edition releases. So yeah, there we have it. Right. Okay. Well, that's it from us. Again, thank you all very much for joining. Apologies for all those who have had to suffer with my cough through the show. Hopefully, I managed to mute it more than I managed to not mute it. So that's us for this week. We'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
And that should be us out. Good stuff, gents.